Thank you very much for that introduction. Yeah, I was going to start the presentation, but Paolo had to go early. So I was going to start with the evolution and the definition of what is a Robo Advisor and how they evolved over a period of time, and then the next presentations were going to be a bit more detailed. But however, we'll take the opportunity to still go through what we are, where we are now. So the title of my presentation is The Evolution of the Robo Advisors and What They Are. So why did the robo-advisory industry all of a sudden become so important? Because quite a few consulting firms across the globe in the wealth and investing space think that in a few years' time, by 2020, they estimate around 2 trillion of the world's wealth will be managed using these automated investing platforms. Now that's a big figure, and it's not something that I managed to bring it out. It's quite a few big firms like KPMG, Accenture, and quite a few firms believe that. And they have their theories behind it. And it's not so different. And my definition of a robo-advisor is very simply what we have been doing offline is trying to move online, taking wealth digital. So try and fundamentally the definition of a robo-advisor in this way for me is simply put the client at the center of the proposition and try to offer him an automated portfolio in a completely digitized manner, right from the onboarding process till they invest and till they want to offboard. That's what essentially robo-advisors do. They just tend to do it in a better manner than the old school institutions did. And by that standards, I don't think the figure of 2 trillion is much bigger enough. I think it could be much more than that in my view. So 2 trillion of wealth management being taken completely digital and offering automated portfolios, I think it can happen. So that is why robo-advisors today are talked about a lot. And in terms of this 2 trillion number, this is not just about the portfolio management or the wealth management part. It's about the way business is being conducted in terms of wealth and saving for one's individual's investments. And that is why that number I think is light. When all the institutions start to realize, the incumbents, the large existing institutions start to realize that this is the way to do business in the future, this figure could be much bigger than that. And how did they all start? I think the crisis was one of the starting points when in the US there were quite a few technologies and quite a few firms who decided that let's try and offer things in a much more transparent manner. Let's tell the clients exactly how much we charge them, and let's give them exactly the truth of how much am I charging you, how much is going to be your performance, and how we can automate the whole process and try and take away and explain you the whole value chain. And that's how the origin of a robo-advisor actually started. So version 1.0, those were the early robo-advisors. That's around 4 or 5 years ago now. And they offered just pure ETFs, automated constructed portfolios, and that's all you did. You went in, you picked some model portfolios, or you created one automated ETF portfolio for your personal needs, and then you came out. And that's all they did in the early days, the 4 or 5 big robo-advisors across the US and across Europe and all. But I think we see that evolving quite significantly. That's where they were in the last few years. And I think naturally these automated onboarding and transparency in terms of fees and just constructing automated portfolios using optimized tools were clearly not going to be enough for them to be able to play in the larger game. So this is where I think we are today in terms of, I think it's version 2.0, when just offering automated ETF-based portfolios for each and every one is not enough. I think you need to move on to a slightly different thing. You need to take care of the individual for his entire life. So that is holistic financial planning. So try and take an individual's life right from the day he finishes his university to paying off his loans, to getting his first house, to be able to do his first mortgage, to get his, once he gets married and his kids and their planning, and then in terms of things that come after that in terms of life insurance and all of those things being taken care of. I think that's where we are, and that's where the world will go as a natural evolution of trying to replace some parts of the human advisory process. Essentially, it comes down to fully taking the entire investing and advising process digital. It's not just about portfolio management once you start to think about it. And that is why the figure of 2 trillion is such a small figure. You're trying to take the entire individual's wealth online and trying to offer him a completely automated, personalized experience for his life, for the future. And he probably will never step into a bank to get any more advice. And that's quite possible. It's very much possible. Most of the youngsters these days probably have never seen a bank. And they'll probably never see another banker or advisor giving him advice on investments. They're probably happy to and comfortable to believe in an online portal to do this. That is where we think we are. Just doing an automated ETF portfolio is probably not enough. And probably just one portfolio is not enough for all of his life's needs. There needs to be a lot more goal-based investing to take care of different goals of his life. That is the future. And that's where they are right now, and that's gradually growing. And version 3.0, I believe that machine learning and AI in different shapes and forms will change the way the financial planning, investing is being done. And even though the technologies exist today, the regulations are not favorable for these technologies to be given as personalized advice to individuals. So what do I mean by that? Let's take an online portal like Amazon, which gives you some recommendations based on machine learning algos behind the scenes to say, you like this book, so you may like this book and this book and this book, so go buy these things. That cannot be done in the case of investing. Just because you bought a certain investment or you picked a certain investment last time or something else this time, even machine learning, even though it could push some boundaries, offering that as an automated personalized advice is not authorized by any regulator so far. It comes under a significant scrutiny and regulation, and it is not being done. And that is the only barrier in some shape or form. Having said that, no one has actually tried it in reality, so we don't know whether it works in truth. But I think machine learning and AI has a significant role to play for the investment manager, the guys who sit behind, who can construct these investment theories and these portfolios. AI and machine learning, cognitive computing, all of that will play a significant role in the construction of portfolios, in shortlisting the securities, to be able to scan 100,000 securities and to be able to give you the 50 or 60 that you can work on to be able to build a portfolio. These are all the middle office back portfolio manager tools. And that's where I guess right now the big data and the analytics and the machine learning is put to use today. But this will go eventually towards the client, the end user, someone like you and me who goes online to invest, could potentially use these algos to be able to get a personalized experience for the future. And yes, for firms who wants to launch their own robo-advisor, I mean the term is robo-advisor. We could simply call it automated investing, automated planning, automated advice. It doesn't matter, but institutions, large institutions today have a choice rather than being threatened by just the small firms being launched. And the small firms have a problem. They need to gain the trust of the individual to be able to ask them to give them money. And it's hard to trust a small firm. But large institutions have a lot to gain from this. They can cut costs by using these solutions significantly by automating the process. They can probably serve their clients much better with superior client experience when you're going to give them a completely online solution. And they have different choices. They can either build them in-house, and if they don't have the know-how, they're going to be delays and all of those things. And they can either buy some B2C companies, which we have seen quite a bit in the US, where large firms have bought another B2C startups for their technology reasons. And nothing wrong with that, assuming they can let their small startups do their own thing and continue to innovate. But eventually, once an M&A is being done, you're part of that culture clash again. And then the last space, which is a B2B2C partnership, we think that is where the world will actually come back to. And it's not new. It's just that previously there were software vendors and technology partners who were already serving these institutions. And I think that's where it will evolve to. And that is my view of the future of the robo-advisors. When people say they're already dead or they're B2C, they're not gaining much AEM and all. But that's because they're still thinking it's just a B2C. You cannot gain trust of an individual to ask him to invest with you $100,000 or $1 million just because you've just been in business for 2 years. But they will if they stay in business for the next 10 years or 20 years, just like every other firm would. But in the short span of times, the large institutions can take advantage of this scenario by trying to partner with B2B pure technology players in this space to help them launch their own version for their customer base when actually they have the larger customer base, and to start serving them rather than being threatened by the other online models and wait for the market to react. I mean, you're not trying to do anything wrong here. It's just to try and offer your clients a better experience at a lower cost, and then you gain a lot more benefits by gaining other customers from other providers here. And And yeah, so some people ask the question, are there going to be any human advisors to offer any advice left in the future? Because of all these robo-advisory propositions coming online, and they can give you all the investment advice and all the wealth planning advice and everything. Do you really need any human advisors you need to go get your advice from? Although I try, and the goal of our company is to try and take wealth management digital, fully digital, I still think there's a significant room for human advisors. There are some things you just cannot possibly automate, and that requires a lot of sense of understanding the emotions of your end clients, and to be able to structure some complex deals in terms of legal, estate planning, will, once you die, how do you want to distribute, and there are lots of other things which automated solutions are not capable of. So what I think will happen is all the human advisors who have nothing of value to offer will die in this proposition in the future. But the ones who have true value to give to their end clients in terms of a legal, regulatory, emotional, or many other shapes and forms for their end clients, those human advisors or bankers or private bankers or relationship managers will be of significant value, and they may actually charge more than what they currently charge. I think that is the future. Highly automated technology solutions which will take care of all the stuff that doesn't need to be taken care of the human advisor, but some specialized propositions only the human advisors could fulfill will be done by the human advisors. So there will be humans left to provide advice to the individuals. And yes, that's wealth objects, and we are trying to take wealth management digital. Thank you.
Any questions from the floor, please? Yes, sir.
So the wealth object is essentially when you take the risk versus return, and then the wealth object analyzed depending upon the individual client's preference, and then you will choose the right sector in a risk versus return quadrant, right?
Yes, that's for the portfolio, yes.
Yeah, and then do you use any kind of a natural language toolkit to find the emotion of the individual client, and then this Robo Advisor, based upon this emotional analysis of a natural language toolkit, do you use that kind of a technology in a wealth object also?
We do not right now. That is what I think is 3.0, where I said the machine learning, cognitive computing, all of that in terms of natural language processing, human emotions, also would play a role in trying to understand the risk profile of a customer.
Oh, so you will include the natural language parser in the next
yes, I think that is the
version.
evolution. I don't think that's there in terms of, and actually it's much more harder to explain. It's more than just being possible, because it's your viewpoint that you think right now your emotional read is, the regulator accepts it, but it needs to be consistent across time. And it's a lot more difficult to explain it to the regulator that sometimes they actually don't even understand what that means, first of all. But secondarily, there are a lot more complexities around it. In terms of...
do you have some knowledge about the empathy or sympathy parser?
I have none.
All right,
no.
thank you.
When we go to that level, probably we'll have the experts in that space to be able to give us some right advice to be able to do it correctly. Because yes, but I do think what you said will have a fundamental role to play in the future of fully automated advice. Where
not only mathematical one, but the human emotional aspect combined together.
It's very difficult, but they may have some role to play, yes.
We have another question, actually two from the floor I just received. The first question reads like this. KPMG Australia recently launched artificial intelligence advisor called Solution 49. How can we effectively monetize the Robo Advisor service to maximize the profits? It's a niche business selling advice. How can you effectively monetize the Robo Advisor service to maximize the profit?
How could you effectively monetize Robo Advisor to make profit? Is that the question?
Yeah, he reads again. KPMG Australia recently launched artificial intelligence advisor called Solution 49.
Yeah.
The question is, how can we effectively monetize the Robo Advisor service to maximize profit?
I mean, again, this question could apply differently to small startups or B2C small startup firms who launch their own robo-advisor versus a large firm. So for the startups, it's a question of building trust. I mean, most of the B2C players are not gaining as much traction as they should, not because their technology is bad or anything. It's just that it takes a lot of time from the end user or the customer to believe a new entity who's just come to the market to give them $100,000 or $200,000 or $1 million to be able to gain revenue. So I don't, that is a different play in terms of gaining trust. I cannot possibly answer. But in the case of a large institution, I think they can significantly cut down a lot of operational costs through automation if they do launch a robo-advisory service.
Cutting down all the labor costs.
Yes, it could be in the case of labor, yes, in various shapes and forms, yes.
Maybe a nightmare for some people out there.
Possibly, yes, yes. So there's probably no need of some sort of onboarding being done through paper and through people all the time, through branches and everything. Some could be done online. So there is a place, you probably will still do it some, but yeah, it's a gradual. That's why I think there's a huge cost play
Hopefully
to
there will be some professional area where human touch may mean something than artificial touch.
Yes, there will be. As I said in the last point, there will be areas which humans will still play a significant role,
Very
but
good.
only for high value services, not for
Very
everything.
good. So human skills will be higher in the ranking or the skill set than the machine learning mechanism. I have another question. It's a long question, so I'm going to read slowly, so please try to gather the thought. I'm going to read very slowly. If efficient robo-advisory becomes the mainstream and most human asset managers are removed from it, okay, how will robo-advisors create alpha? I don't understand what this means, but maybe you can figure it out. The next line reads, the fundamental reason one market participant can create alpha is because there is inefficiency? He's asking a question. Such issues are already being observed in smart beta quant strategies. Smart beta uses analyst consensus as one of the key predictors for performance, but increase of smart beta has caused downsizing of equity analysts, causing the smart beta strategy to malfunction. Did you get the idea?
I got the idea.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So my definition of a robo-advisor is not just one efficient portfolio theory or MPT theory being applied to almost every proposition on planet Earth. My definition of a robo-advisor is an automated portfolio solution being offered or an automated advice solution being offered to the end client. Now once everyone says in the market, in the future everyone has these automated solutions, we can't call all of them robo-advisors. They'll just be all automated wealth managers or automated investment managers. Now the algo based on which these investment criteria or investment strategies are being set becomes important, and those become the differentiating points, and those generate performance. So in the long term, yes, performance matters, and that performance is generated by the algo, and the algo is written by the computer scientists, and they are being fed the information by these asset managers or investment managers. So investment strategies still matter. How you choose to do this whole thing, nothing is changing. It's just a significant high level of automation being done. Your algorithms with your computer guys, plus your investment teams, investment strategies, heads being put together is what generates alpha together in the future. It's just an automated way of giving stuff out.
As you move more towards automated decision making with algorithm, right? And you ever have one day a mis-selling, who do you sue?
Yeah.
And has that already happened?
It will happen. It hasn't happened because it hasn't moved down to the level 2, level 3 of scenarios which we are talking about machine learning and everything else, right? So right now it's a clearly defined algo. So you're probably clearly defining which ones to pick and give an offer. And if you're asking me, is there a case for mis-selling? Yes, I do think there will be a case of mis-selling. Just automation does not necessarily mean it's fully protected. So they will have to be regulated as though the regulator has been regulating the offline guys. So it's just that up until now, up until this point, they're not going down the route of selling supremely personalized advice products because the regulator doesn't allow them to. The regulator asks them, if you're going to do this and this, you need to take a permission which is over and beyond a simple discretionary portfolio management in most countries. You'll have to take something called a personal advice regulatory permission. And if you're taking that permission, that means if anything goes wrong within that portal, then the guys, whoever has taken that permission, will still go to jail. The system, the computer is not going to jail. There will still be people who will still go to jail who's formed part of taking this regulatory permission. In the case...
So is the company integrating the technology that goes to jail as opposed to the technology provider?
No, in the case of a technology provider, there's two difference. So the technology providers who provide the toolkit to be able to launch any algo that you want, which is what we are,
Yeah.
versus someone still needs to customize that algo to their own needs.
Yeah.
That customization of which algo and what needs and what products to offer is the decision of the regulated entity always. And so if the regulated entity chooses that they want to offer X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z, then it's them who decides to go, who will be the regulated entity.
Okay.
So,
Cool. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions? Thank you very much. This was Uday Nimmakayala from CEO of Wealth Objects. Thank you very much. Let's give him a big hand.